The night that shattered everything. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening in a quiet Philadelphian neighborhood. Clyde Shelton, a brilliant engineer, was tinkering with a microchip in his basement workshop while his wife and young daughter moved through the house above him, living their peaceful lives. Then the door burst open. Two men, Clarence Darby and Rupert Ames, stormed in with violence in their eyes. They weren't sophisticated criminals, they were animals. Found him, and then they made him watch as they brutalized and murdered everyone he loved. His wife stabbed, his daughter dragged away screaming. Clyde, helpless, could only witness the annihilation of his world. When the police arrived, they found a man who had lost everything. But Clyde Shelton wasn't broken. He was waiting. The deal that betrayed justice. Assistant District Attorney Nick Rice was a rising star, young, ambitious, handsome. He had a 96% conviction rate and plans for higher office. He didn't have time for unwinnable cases. The evidence against Darby was compromised. The murder weapon, mishandled. The confession, questionable. Nick faced a choice: risk everything on a trial that might set both killers free or make a deal. He made the deal. Rupert Ames would testify against Clarence Darby. Ames would get the death penalty. Darby would plead to lesser charges and serve a few years. Nick called it "some justice is better than no justice." Clyde sat in that courtroom and watched his family's murderers walk away, one to death row, one to freedom. He looked at Nick Rice with eyes that held no tears, only a question, and Nick ignored him. 10 years of silence. A decade passed. Ames sat on death row. Darby lived free. Nick Rice climbed the ladder, celebrated his convictions, and never thought about Clyde Shelton. Then, the executions began. The first sign that something was wrong came during Ames' lethal injection. The chemicals hit his veins, and instead of peaceful unconsciousness, his body convulsed. He screamed, he writhed, he died in agony as the execution team watched in horror. Someone had tampered with the drugs. Someone had turned the state's method of execution into a torture device. And someone left evidence pointing directly at Clarence Darby. The warehouse. Darby got the call. "They're coming for you. Run." He hijacked a police car, forced the officer to drive him to an abandoned warehouse. He thought he was escaping. The officer wasn't a cop. It was Clyde. Before Darby could react, a device fired tetrodotoxin-coated spikes into his neck. Paralyzed, conscious, helpless, just like Clyde had been 10 years ago. Clyde strapped him to a table, positioned a mirror above so Darby could watch every moment, and then, methodically, professionally, Clyde began to take his family's killer apart, piece by piece. He recorded every second. When the police found Darby's remains, Clyde was waiting at his front door, naked, calm, ready. The prison that wasn't. Clyde confessed. Of course he did. He wanted to be locked up. He wanted to be inside. From his cell, he made demands: a new mattress, a steak dinner from Del Frisco's, his iPod delivered by a specific time. Nick, desperate, complied. Each demand brought information about another body. Darby's lawyer, found suffocated in a box, killed by a mechanism Clyde had designed and timed to perfection. The warden thought he had Clyde contained: solitary confinement, maximum security, no visitors. But Clyde wasn't contained. He was connected. The warning. A CIA contact named Bray pulled Nick aside. "We know Clyde," he said. "He worked for us. He was an engineer, the best we ever had. He designed operations that killed impossible targets in impossible places. If he's in prison, it's because he wants to be. And if he wants to kill you, he will. There's nothing you can do to stop him." Bray's advice? Kill Clyde. Quickly. quietly, before he burns the city down. Nick didn't listen. The city under siege. Judge Birch took a phone call in her chambers. The phone exploded. Nick's entire legal team walked to their cars after a late night at the office. Car bombs detonated in sequence. Sarah Lowell, Nick's sweet-natured assistant, died in the fireball. At Sarah's funeral, a bomb disposal robot rolled up to the district attorney's convoy. Jonas Cantrell, Nick's mentor, looked at it with confusion. Then it opened fire. The city panicked. The mayor promoted Nick to acting district attorney. Lockdown, curfew. Philadelphia held its breath while one man in a cell pulled every string. The tunnel. Nick went back to the beginning. He studied Clyde's past. He found a property Clyde owned right next to the prison. Inside that property, a tunnel leading directly under the solitary confinement cells, stocked with weapons, disguises, equipment. Clyde hadn't been trapped in prison, he'd been commuting. Every murder, every bomb, every move, he'd walked out, done the job, and walked back in while the police hunted for an accomplice who never existed. The final move. Evidence pointed to City Hall. The mayor was holding an emergency meeting. Nick and his team swept the building and found a suitcase bomb in the room directly below the meeting chamber. They defused it, or so they thought. Nick walked alone to Clyde's cell. The chess master sat on his bed, calm as always. "You done?" Nick said. Clyde smiled. "Am I?" He pulled out a detonator. The bomb at City Hall, the one they'd found, it was a decoy. The real bomb was somewhere else. Nick didn't flinch. "Check under your bed." Clyde looked. A second bomb, identical to the first, sat beneath him. Nick had moved it while Clyde was out, turned the game around. The choice. Clyde held the detonator. Nick stood at the door. "Don't do it," Nick said. "You'll regret it for the rest of your life." Clyde looked at the bomb. He looked at the bracelet in his hand, his daughter's bracelet, the only thing he had left of her. "Rest of my life?" he whispered. "That's the thing, Nick. I don't have one." He pressed the button. The explosion ripped through the cell. Clyde Shelton, the man who had terrorized the city, vanished in fire and smoke. The aftermath. Nick walked out of the prison. The sun was setting. The city was safe. He went to his daughter's cello recital, sat in the audience, watched her play, smiled. The system had won. The law-abiding citizen was dead. But as Nick watched his daughter, the question lingered. The same question Clyde had asked 10 years ago in that courtroom. Was justice served? Or did the system simply kill the man who refused to play by its rules? The truth. Clyde Shelton wasn't a hero. He was a monster who murdered innocent people. But he was also right. The system failed him. The deal Nick made was about convenience, not justice. In the end, Nick became what Clyde wanted him to be, a man who would no longer make deals with murderers, a man who finally understood that some justice is sometimes no justice at all. Clyde lost, but he also won, and Philadelphia would never forget the man who proved that even from a cage, one determined citizen could bring the whole system to its knees. The system isn't broken, it was designed this way. If you enjoy fast, clear movie stories, subscribe to Quick Story Cinema and never miss a new recap on YouTube.